Welcome back to another episode of Life in the Stance podcast. We have Jake and Zach back in the podcast today. We're excited to talk about whatever's going on in the NBA trade landscape. Obviously, Dame is a big point of focus there. And we're also excited to talk about NFL Week 4 and some of the things that we predicted a couple of episodes ago with fantasy and everything as well. So excited to talk about the NFL and how the season's going so far. In addition to that, we wanted to remind everyone that during week 6, the 9:30 a.m. game between the Ravens and the Titans at Sunday, October 15th, we will be live streaming during that game. We're going to be talking about the game, talking about trends that we're seeing, other fantasy advice to start the day and all those kinds of things. So we're excited to get rolling on that. But to start the episode today, we're going to jump right into the Dame trade that happened with the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks sent Jrue Holiday out a day after Jrue said that he wanted to remain a Buck for life, which
Yeah,
was
that's
kind of
crazy.
unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, so it's a big trade. It obviously shakes up the NBA landscape quite a bit here in the offseason. I think Dame is also, in my opinion, the first sort of domino to fall in the offseason for the NBA. And now that that trade has happened, I think you're going to start to see more talks around Harden, more talks around some of the other superstars in the NBA that might be looking for a new place to go. Now that that trade has happened. As far as the actual teams and how they benefit, obviously the Bucks are disgusting. I think with Damon and Giannis on the same floor, um, they obviously do lose a locker room guy in Jrue. They lose all caliber, all NBA caliber defense. And a guy who could still put up 30 on an opposing team's point guard. So they definitely lose a key piece of their team, but there's there's probably only one or two other shooters in the NBA like Damian Lillard, and it's probably like Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, and that's about it. Maybe you throw Trae Young in there at this point now. Um, but yeah, I mean, so putting those two on the floor together, Dame and Giannis, that seems unreal. Portland, I think that they got a decent return out of what they're looking to do. Yeah, obviously they're gonna try to flip Jrue right away. I think that makes sense. Hopefully the Sixers can work something out there. I think we'd both love to see Jrue back in a Philly uniform. Yeah,
Please.
definitely. Yeah, for sure. And then I think if you're the Suns, you're happy about it too because Nurkic is going to do everything that Aiton was doing for you anyway, in my opinion, because Aiton was the fourth option and maybe even less than that in some nights. So he's not going to do anything less than Aiton was doing, and you bring back some other depth and talent with it. So I like what the Suns did. I think it's a win-win-win trade. I'm excited to see how the rest of the dominoes play out across the NBA offseason now that this has kind of happened. But Bender, yeah, curious to hear your thoughts, especially
Well,
about what you think some of the next dominoes to fall might be.
yeah, so I think you're going to see a lot of teams go after Drew. I think whoever goes after Drew, that's going to mean more than the Dame trade itself. I think Dame being in Milwaukee kind of gives them um, more explosiveness on that roster offensively. They did kind of lose their main defender. However, I do think they have enough with Giannis and Brook Lopez whenever Giannis wants to play defense, basically. Um, but I do think that DeAndre Ayton going to the Blazers gives him another opportunity. He's still young. He can join another young player and Scoot. Simons is still there. I believe they'll try and trade Jeremy Grant now, is what I'm hearing as well. So I think they're going to flip Jeremy
Mm,
Grant after paying him and also flipping Jrue Holiday. Now, I did see a trade earlier today that I thought was interesting for the Sixers. Um, I saw Tobias Harris and two firsts for Jrue Holiday. I think that'd be a perfect match. I think Tobias being on another young roster with the Blazers would help them if they wanted to keep him. If not, that's
interesting.
fine. Um,
Doesn't solve the
and
Harden
then
problem either, though.
no, it doesn't solve the Harden problem, but I think getting Tobias out of there might be a good idea. Just bring Drew back. I think Drew can be a good mentor for Maxey, um, who Maxey's trying to improve on the defensive end. So I think Drew being there helps that way. Um,
Bender, we
and
have
then
some
what?
live news. We have some live news right now. Actually, coming from Kyle. So you guys know Kyle. Kyle is just getting out of an event right now. He can't make it on the podcast today, but he just texted us to let us know that the Celtics are trading Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, a 2024 first that they got from the Golden State Warriors, and a 2029 unprotected Boston first round pick to the Blazers in exchange for Jrue Holiday. So the Celtics have officially put Jrue Holiday on their
No
roster,
way.
and they gave up quite a bit for it. They gave up Malcolm
Oh,
Brogdon, two firsts, and Robert Williams
Hmm.
for that. That's significant. That's significant. There's a lot to talk about there, Bender. Let's hear your initial thoughts right away from hearing that trade. Obviously, you hate hearing Jrue Holiday go to the Celtics.
I'll
They
say
gave up a decent bit to get him, but yeah, let's
first
geez,
of
man,
all, damn. Second of all, good trade for the Celtics. I just don't like the Celtics. This just puts a wrench in everything. Um, no, I honestly think they don't give up as much as what you think they are. Just because I think their offense rolls better with a stretch big. You see it with Al Horford. They have to throw Robert Williams to the bench at times because he can't spread the floor for Tatum and
yep,
Brown. So I
yep,
think them having Horford and Kristaps is the better move for them. Um, I think Jrue Holiday brings their defense back that they lost with Marcus Smart. And I do think obviously he's levels above Malcolm Brogdon. Brogdon's a very good player. But I think Jrue Holiday is a different caliber type of player. Ooh, I don't know, man. I think that's the Celtics trying to go back and forth with the Bucks. Like, hey, like we just stole your guy now. Like we're one step ahead of you already. Like
yeah. I mean, this is it's definitely a big move. Props to the Celtics for getting it done
as
in
a
a timely manner. Yeah, I mean,
as a
well,
Sixers fan, it's kind of crappy. We're kind of just sitting here waiting for the Harden thing still while we're watching guys find new homes. Um,
for sure, for
yeah,
sure.
I don't even know what we could get anymore. Um,
I don't know if anyone's going to put up more than 80 points against the Celtics this year.
oh come on now.
No, I'm just kidding.
He's
But in all seriousness, you I mean, you add another wing defender there that's like you still have Derek White,
solid. Like you know what? It's gonna be
Drew,
Drew,
Derek White,
like
Tatum and
Tatum,
Brown.
Brown, and Horford, or
Right.
Kristaps, whichever one they want to start.
Right.
Or
I mean,
they start both of them.
I will say for a long time though, one of the things that the Celtics had going for them when you got into the playoffs was talk about their longevity and the consistency of the roster. But you can't say that about them this year. It feels like they have completely overhauled what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, if you see what's going on around the league, you can sign veterans or decent players for very cheap to fill your bench. I think the Suns did that before the
Yeah,
Milwaukee trade. Like the Suns didn't
right,
have anything. The Suns got good quality players for cheap before they got like Grayson Allen a part of that deal.
right,
Um,
right.
which I
Dang
think
man.
Grayson Allen's kind of overrated, but at the same time, I think
Yeah,
he's better than what they had, so it doesn't really matter.
yeah, and he's still a 41% shooter. He's gonna play 20 minutes a game.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that
41%
team.
from three. Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's gonna fit well in that roster. Catch and shoot, take his
Yeah,
shots.
yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of
Man.
powerhouses now. Okay, that just
So
threw a
what
wrench.
so you know, a little bit of a detour obviously because this is going on. So what do you think the Sixers next move should be then? So now you got all this going on. I feel like that changes the landscape for what the Sixers need to get back from the Clippers. It's no longer you can't talk about Terrence Mann coming back in a trade from the Clippers at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's where I think if you want to do a three-team deal, I think James wants to go to Houston too. So we wouldn't get anything out of Houston. What,
No,
Fred VanVleet maybe?
that's not
Like that's not a big deal.
putting him and Maxi on the same floor too would be pointless. But I
If
mean,
it
you
meant
look at yeah, oh man,
if it meant getting him and somehow using the Blazers as the third team, because the Blazers are going to want picks, and the Blazers have picks now. So if you want to use the Blazers as a third team, I wouldn't mind taking up the Jeremy Grant contract if we could finesse it.
putting Jeremy Grant on the floor with Embiid and Maxi, interesting.
I don't know. I know I'm talking about all the old Sixers guys, so it's kind of biased, but like I don't know what other guys are available. Jeremy Grant's available. Anybody on Houston's available at this point, except for maybe Jabari Smith.
Right.
Um, Kevin Porter's probably out of there because he's in trouble again.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know, man. I feel like
I think
I
the
don't
Sixers
know.
are stuck.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a little bit of a log jam, I think, in what their options might be.
I think we might have to look 2 years from now rather than this year. Um, with the salary cap change, I think what we should do, now that I'm thinking about it, I think we should trade James to LA and try and find some kind of package that involves Norman Powell. Um, Norman Powell's under contract for about like another 3 years or so. If we can somehow get him along with like a Brandon Boston or the Morris twin. Um, then I think next year we're looking at guys like DeMar DeRozan that are available, who used to be a Raptors guy as well. I know he didn't win with Nick Nurse, but Nick Nurse likes his old Raptors players.
Yeah,
So I think if you look in the years ahead, you can potentially have Norman Powell and DeMar DeRozan along with the roster you have now, minus Harden and Tobias. Not saying that makes us better or worse, but I think you can get other players. Like I think you might see Kyle Lowry want to come back home then if we get DeMar DeRozan. Kyle Lowry would be a backup point guard at this point. This also depends on the
yeah,
development of Springer, who's played well for us throughout the preseason and training camp.
yeah.
Uh,
I'm excited
so
to
we
see
have,
Springer play more.
yeah,
I
well,
mean,
we
it
have a
sounds
bunch
like
of
a lot
depth.
of old guys. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
the guys you're talking about bringing in, adding to the team, bunch of old guys. Every name you mentioned, I'm like, oh,
but think
he's
about
turning
how
35, 36.
if we're not going for the win now mentality, Embiid's gonna want to walk. Embiid's gonna want to go to the Knicks. I'm telling you right now, he's gonna go to the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know at this point. Like, do you think Embiid is winning you a championship?
Um, Also a great question. I'd have to see trade packages for Embiid, and I don't want to see six first round picks. I want to see like two players, like star caliber players, and like three
Right,
picks.
right. And I think that's the issue you run into with like what is the true trade value of Embiid right now. I don't really know what the true trade value of Embiid would be right now, but I do think it's an interesting conversation that at least should be had at this point. He just had an MVP season and he still couldn't get out of the second round. We had the best roster around Embiid that you probably have ever had. I mean, where do you draw the line where you say Embiid isn't your guy?
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah, so my dad's coming down the steps. He just saw the trade and he has the same reaction that I have. Yeah. No, the only thing we had to offer was Tobias and two firsts is what I saw. And Brogdon and Robert Williams is a better package with those first round picks than Tobias and two firsts. Because Daryl Morey's not going to want to give up as much as some other people. Morey likes to try and pull a Danny Ainge, but he's not quite Danny Ainge. Um, so that's basically the main point there. He's going to start because it's going to be Derek, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kristaps, Horford off the bench. I don't know who else they have. That's the problem. But yeah, yeah, yeah. I got you. Yep. Yeah.
Crazy.
So I think we might want to just blow it up and get rid of Harden, Tobias, and Embiid at this point.
That's why I asked the question because I feel like if you turn on the fire sale logo, deals get done that actually can benefit you more in the long run.
Yeah.
And I don't see moves that you can make as a Sixers fan that make you competitive with rosters like the Bucks and the Celtics right now this year. Like, I don't see a move that you can make that makes you competitive this year with that. Um,
No,
so
you have to look 2, 3 years ahead of time, and Embiid's not waiting 2 to 3 years. So then that's
right,
where you brought up the question of, are we
yeah,
winning with him anyway? So it
yeah.
makes
So
sense.
so you got to blow it up. That's I mean, at least in my opinion, you gotta blow that up. But
Um, yeah, real quick, I think you can trade Embiid for some kind of package involving Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson. Maybe get Emmanuel quickly out of that. That would still give them Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, potentially bring another guy in with them. Um, so I think the Knicks would be better off trying to do that. I know they thought about moving on from Julius Randle anyway. And obviously you're going to listen to Embiid's trade demands rather than like Julius Randle. So and Julius Randle is good. Not to say he's not good, but if you're talking about the MVP of the league, you'll trade anybody. Um,
yeah, it's
so I think
interesting.
we get depth, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, Emmanuel quickly. We trade Harden for Norman Powell and the other guys I mentioned. That's depth right there. That's a lot of depth. two or three starters in that,
Yeah,
um, minus the picks that you would probably get on top of that from the Knicks and Clippers. Tobias's contract is expiring, so if we don't trade him this season, we're not getting anything from him. And then we'd still have Maxey. We'd still have Springer if he turns out to be anything. We still have DeAnthony Melton. We still have pieces, but I don't know if they're like superstar pieces to really compete with what we're seeing.
right.
Um,
Yeah, and that's where I'm at too. That's why I think you blow it up. It'd be interesting to see what happens. But let's move on, at least for podcast purposes, on to our next
yeah,
segment here. Obviously, there's some big news coming out. Yeah, props again to the Celtics, but I hate you guys. Um,
yeah.
let's go.
Thanks,
Let's go to
thanks.
NFL Week One.
I'm gonna say thank you, Kyle, for the news, but
Yeah,
no thank you for what team it was. Anyway,
yeah,
continue.
geez. All right, yeah, all right. Continuing on, let's jump into NFL games right now. Thursday night game already happened, Bender. We're gonna pass on the prediction for that. Lions beat up on the Packers. Right now, it looks like the Jaguars are gonna beat the Falcons. There's 2 minutes left in that game, so let's jump right into Rams Colts. Who do you got?
I have the Colts. It just seems like even with Minshew or AR at starting quarterback, they can kind of control the game. They competed with the Baltimore Ravens. Although I didn't like the call at the end of that game. I think the Ravens got cheated out last week, but they shouldn't have put themselves in that situation anyway.
Yeah, and it is interesting. The Colts seem to just win games throughout the regular season that they shouldn't even be in or have a chance to win. But I'm gonna take the Rams though. I think the Rams have actually looked pretty decent. I think Matt Stafford has a bone to pick um, with this season still. I think he's like still trying to out to prove something a little bit. So I'm gonna take the Rams there. Ravens Browns.
Ravens. Deshaun Watson's out with a shoulder injury. I think that's said and done.
Yeah. So you think Ravens make a statement, especially coming off their last loss? And Browns don't have Nick Chubb. I think Ravens probably win this game too. Vikings Panthers.
I have the Vikings. I think the Vikings get back on track. I think they're kind of struggling right now, but they've been competing, so I think they'll flip that around.
Yeah, the only person I trust in the Panthers is Adam Thielen. But I trust Justin Jefferson more than Adam
That
Thielen.
too.
So
Miles Sanders
Vikings.
banged up. Miles Sanders is banged up as well, and that's like the only other player that's been
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah. So Vikings for sure on that one. Bengals Titans.
I actually have the Bengals. I think they get back on track as well. I think some of the starts to the season are a little bit of slow starts for some teams, a little bit of a fluke. I think they are one of them.
Yeah, Bengals for sure. They're a good football team. They're gonna bounce back after a poor start. Buccaneers and Saints.
Tough one. Both teams are performing very well this year. Um, I'm going to take Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Tampa Bay too. I like riding the Baker Mayfield train so far this season. I think he looks like he's just in a better situation. So yeah, I'll take Tampa Bay. Dolphins
Alvin,
Bills.
I say
Oh, go
Alvin
ahead.
Kamara. Alvin Kamara is back from suspension.
Also a big deal. Yeah, big deal for this game. All right, but yeah, the Dolphins Bills.
But I have the Bills winning this game. I think Miami gets slowed up for the first time this season. I think it'll be kind of a shootout. I could see like a 31-28 final from this game.
Yeah, I think there's definitely gonna be points scored. I think the Bills are gonna have to try to outscore the Dolphins if they do that, but I got Miami. I think there's too much speed. Buffalo is slow and old on the back end. Um, Broncos Bears.
Neither. Can I say neither? Can I say tie 0-0? Um, no,
Uh,
I think the Broncos just because they have more experience coaching and quarterback.
yeah, I'll take Broncos. I don't know anything else to say about that game. Commanders Eagles.
Um, I have the Eagles. I don't think they're gonna think of the Commanders as a joke like they did last year and take an L from them this year.
For
So
sure.
Eagles.
For sure. Steelers Texans.
Um, might be mad at me for this one, but the Texans are looking good.
Texans do look good, man.
I have the Texans winning this game just because I think they're if they win this game, there's going to be some chatter. Just because of the way they've started this season and the losses that they have this season.
Yeah.
Um, we're very close.
Yeah. I like the Texans too, to be honest. I watched a decent amount of film about CJ Stroud in the last couple of days in preparation for watching the Steelers defense against him. And he looks like a veteran QB. I'm going to take a little bit longer because this is obviously the Steelers game. You can do the same with
Yeah,
the
go for it.
Cowboys bender. But But yeah, I mean, I like CJ Stroud a lot. He's put a lot of good stuff on tape. He seems to be very comfortable. He seems to be throwing with anticipation very well.
Hmm.
Against the Steelers defense, who runs primarily, zone blitzing schemes, a lot of, match coverages and passing guys off. I'm kind of concerned that the Texans might be a good matchup for what they do defensively. I did see that DJ Stroud is among the worst NFL QBs when he's pressured, but he's among the best NFL QBs when he's not under pressure. Now, looking at the game film, I don't know if I really trust those analytics entirely. I think he looked pretty good when he was, having to move around in the pocket and make a few plays off schedule as well. But in general, I think it's going to be about the two offensive tackles for the Texans are out. Two starting
Hmm.
offensive tackles are out. Can the Steelers supply enough and apply enough pressure to help out their defensive backs enough to make some plays? Because the Steelers defensive backs have shown that they'll make plays on the ball if they're close to the ball.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, the more time that goes by during a play, the less likely it is that they're close to the ball. So I think that's going to be the true matchup today is going to be, Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt against those two outside tackles and see how that goes. It'll be a really good game though. I could definitely see how someone would take the Texans. I think it is going to be rather low scoring. I'm predicting like a 20-17, 20-14 kind of a game, but I'm going to
Yeah.
pick the Steelers, obviously, because,
Yeah.
um, Steelers fan. But
Two two
yeah, hoping they win.
quick comments. Joey Porter Jr. looks real good.
Yep, he
Um,
needs to play more.
Second comment, I think um, back when we were talking about the NFL draft, and I said I don't think Bryce Young deserved to be the number one pick. As of now, I think that's holding true. CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson are showing
Very true.
better than and honestly, I think with leadership anyway, like they're boosting the players around them. They don't have like a stacked team, but with what
Yeah.
they have, I think they're doing very well.
Yeah, I agree. And on top of that, CJ Stroud especially had a bunch of people coming after him after all those S2 scores, the
Yes.
cognition test scores, right?
Yes.
Um, yeah, I think he looks great. But moving on to the next game here, Raiders Chargers.
I have the Chargers. I had them even before knowing the Jimmy G injury. Jimmy G's out today. I think that's just plain as day.
I have the Raiders in this game, and I have the Raiders because I actually like Aiden O'Connell as well. I like the backup QB that's coming in. I think he's better than Jimmy G.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
what he's put on preseason tape and the pro style system that he played in college, I think Aiden O'Connell is a really, really quality backup QB. And I think he might come in, and because he hasn't put a ton on tape yet, the Chargers defense has been like historically bad so far this season. I
Uh-huh.
don't think having any preparation for a guy is going to help that. So I think
Yeah.
the Raiders, they might surprise the Chargers today, and Aiden O'Connell might have a little bit of a breakout game.
The Chargers might come out in some base defenses or not take him seriously and try an all-out blitz, and they might get messed up by it. Because you
Yeah,
can't forget about
exactly.
Josh Jacobs, who hasn't played well yet, but I
Yeah.
think he's due, and Devontae Adams, who I still think is the best receiver.
Yeah, he's still there. Yeah, we put up close to 200 yards on the Steelers, which
Yep.
was great for my fantasy team, but not great for the Steelers defensive back. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think the Raiders could surprise a lot of people with that game today. I think, yeah, Jimmy G being out might actually help them.
Yep.
And I think from what I hear too around the Raiders organization, I think it might actually be a little bit of a way out for them as well. Because I think a lot of people after they drafted that kid, they've been watching him in training camp and throughout the preseason, and they might have wanted to actually get a look at what this kid looks like in an NFL game. But you
Yeah.
can't just bench Jimmy for a while, right? You can't just do
Yeah.
that in the NFL. So I think
Hmm.
some people are like, oh, like, okay, we actually get a chance to really see what this kid's about. Jimmy might not get his job back this season, which would be really interesting. Really interesting. All right, next
Yikes.
game though, Cardinals 49ers.
Niners, but I'm impressed with Dobbs.
Agreed. Niners seem like they are steamrolling everyone, though. So I'm going to take the 49ers. All right, let's spend a little more time here. Patriots, Cowboys.
So I think the Cowboys win easily. Mac Jones is hot garbage. I think if the game is close, then I think it's because Dak is messing up against a very stout Patriots defense. Patriots have always historically have had a top defense in the league, and I think that might come true, and especially against a guy like Dak, who's been fairly well this year. Um, but it might be the game that he throws three. So
Yeah. So you like if he throws three picks, you think Patriots probably win this game.
Patriots win if Dak lets them in the game. Is
Yeah.
basically where I'm at. Like I don't trust Dak until we play somebody real, and we play the Niners next week. So like we
Yeah.
we have to play the Niners before I start saying like, yeah, we have a chance.
Yeah. So I mean at this point you still think Dak is the limiting factor too,
Yeah. I do think the Diggs injury hurts. I
for
think
sure.
we had trouble adjusting last week and we gave up some big plays. One was a bigger run to James Conner. I think that's the first big run we've even let up all season.
Hmm.
Because there's a stat out there that's like runs over 20 yards or something, over 15, whatever it is. And I think that's the
Yeah.
first one we gave up like that. So I think last week we didn't take the Cardinals seriously. Um, Dobbs has been playing well. The Cardinals have been competing. I don't think it means anything for us that we lost. Like you're gonna be mad because you have to win the games you got to win, especially if you want to win
Right.
the division over the Eagles. Um,
Right.
but I don't think it means anything. I'm still waiting to play top competition. I believe we got the Niners and then the Dolphins later in the season. I think those are two Super Bowl contenders. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, like you're still taking the Cowboys over the Cardinals in the NFC when it comes down to it.
yeah.
Um, I think the Cardinals probably did show some holes in the Cowboys defense because even though there were a couple of big runs in the first time that happened, Trayvon Diggs doesn't have a whole lot to do with the interior run defense of the Cowboys. So I think there's probably some things schematically that other teams probably saw on tape, but yeah, but the Cowboys obviously saw those things too and probably rectified them. I think they probably win this game against the Patriots. They are just a superior talented team, which is the case for most teams that the Cowboys play against. I think they're probably the more talented team in the majority of games they play. But I think you're right. It's about Dak Prescott, and it feels like there's almost like a boredom with it, where
Hmm.
like every year the Cowboys have one of the top rosters. They're always talked about. You know, it's hard to think of it like this still, but Dak Prescott was the guy that took over for Tony Romo.
Hmm.
And there
Yep.
hasn't really been another guy that's been given a chance. And Tony Romo played a long time ago. He's been in the booth for a little bit, and the
Yeah.
Cowboys haven't really won anything. So it's like
No.
like yeah, like it doesn't feel like it's been that long, but it has, and I sense a little bit of boredom. Hopefully, the Cowboys can just execute. It just feels like it's an execution like splash boredom problem where it's like you just got to show up every week and care to the fullest extent, and
I'm
probably in
cheering
good shape.
for I'm cheering for teams like the Vikings and the Rams to lose this season, like a lot of games this season. And you want to know why? Because we would trade for Matthew Stafford or Kirk Cousins in a heartbeat. And I think we'd do better off with them instead.
Do you think Kirk
So
Cousins would do better in Dallas
then Dak, yeah.
than Dak?
And I
Wow.
think Stafford coming home to Dallas like has always been talked about. I feel like if the Rams are struggling, he's getting older. I feel like if you're in a win now, which our roster is,
Mm. Stafford in Dallas would be dope. He would look good
yeah,
in the Cowboys uniform. Yeah, that'd be sick.
gunslinging that thing. Get another number nine out there real quick.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be sick. All right,
But
ready to move on to the last two games?
yep,
All right, last two games, the Sunday night game, Chiefs and Jets.
Chiefs.
Yeah, I hate
Don't
talking
talk
about the
about them.
Jets this season now. Yeah, Chiefs. All right, Seahawks and Giants.
Seahawks. I feel like they're the better team straight up. The Giants haven't proved anything this year yet. So
Yeah, I think the Seahawks probably win that game too. I don't I don't really like anything that's going on with the Giants right now. So,
yeah,
um,
no. Coming back
yeah,
against the Cardinals isn't really anything big.
right, right. All right. So with that being said, that's all of sort of the week four NFL predictions that we have. So for the last couple minutes here, we're just kind of talk a little bit of fantasy, some boom or bust players that maybe were surprises this season, or just players we'd like to highlight or mention, or maybe an earlier prediction that we'd like to prove wrong or right. But Bender, you wanna start?
Yeah, so I think the sleeper pick just based off of value is Tua. He was picked later in the drafts, just simply because they were unsure, like especially me, like I will admit to it, I was unsure about his health. He's only played a couple games this season. If he goes the whole season, then it's for sure proving me wrong. But I think um, Tua is probably the best quarterback in the league right now. All the players around him are also making him better at times, like Tyreek Hill just being on a burner for a
Yeah,
touchdown every now and then.
insane.
It's gonna boost your stats. But Tua himself has been playing good. Um, the guy I haven't really been impressed with. Um, I don't even want to limit it to one guy. I'm actually going to say a whole offense.
Okay.
Um, the Bengals offense.
Ah,
Um, you pick Jamar Chase, probably top two with Justin Jefferson or Eckler or whoever in your draft. T. Higgins had one good game out of three or four. He's had what 8 targets the first week, had 0 catches. He had
yep.
8 targets last week and 2 catches.
Yeah.
Um,
A
I
lot of
believe
drop balls too.
week two I think was his best week. And that's just because he got in the end zone. They tried to get him involved because they couldn't get Jamar Chase involved.
Yeah.
I think everything's coming down on Mixon then. Mixon last year was getting probably between 16, 20 fantasy points a game if you're in a PPR league. He's been hovering like the 10 to 14 range.
Right.
They're losing games, so he's obviously going to get his little dump offs and you get extra points that way. Um, and then I think it all falls on Joe Burrow then too and his health. So I think it's just a domino effect on that offense.
Yeah. I think both those points are fair. Yeah, at this point, if you placed your bets on anyone in the Bengals offense in your top couple of picks, you probably lost your first couple of fantasy weeks. Because if those were supposed to be your surefire 20 or 30 point guys, it didn't happen, which is definitely, disappointing. You mentioned Tua. I think everyone in the Dolphins offense kind of deserves some praise. I mean, you have this rookie coming out of nowhere, this Devon Achane guy.
Hmm.
Uh, who showed up. Tyreek Hill is obviously a huge fantasy guy. Raheem Mostert is probably the best running back for fantasy so far.
I'll say
Um,
Mostert is healthy for once.
right, and
So
he looks
now we're seeing what he's
fast.
doing.
He looks fast, and he doesn't have to take 25 touches a game either.
Nope.
Like he's never been a back that has to take 20 plus touches. He wasn't that in San Francisco, and he's not that in Miami. So he's got a lot in the tank yet. Like he looks good. So yeah, I mean, definitely, shouting out the entire Miami offense, I think is fair. Jordan Love, I think, is someone who I have to talk about. To this point, he's the highest scoring fantasy QB. Um,
Hmm.
and like he's looked pretty decent. He hasn't looked perfect, but he's put up a decent amount of points. He's got 8 touchdowns. Um, over 900 yards.
He has killed me though because uh I had AJ Dillon start a game or two because Aaron Jones was hurt and I thought he would get more touches. And they are still gunslinging that thing. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'll blame you.
yeah. So you got to mention that, and then you got to talk about Puka Nakua too,
Yeah,
who
sure. Yeah.
being out here in Utah now. He was a BYU guy. Everyone is going crazy about Puka Nakua. So obviously he's had a really good season so far. And then the one guy I'll also mention because I was wrong, at least for the beginning of the season, Devonte Adams is still a Devonte Adams.
Ah, there it is. I was waiting for
which
that.
which
I was
like
gonna go after you.
I
I was gonna
mean
go.
he's on my own fantasy team, right? So like
It's crazy. Hypocrite. Jeez.
yeah, do what you gotta do. But
I
yeah, I mean
guess.
it's been an interesting season for fantasy. Keenan Allen went crazy. There's been a couple of 40
I was
plus games,
I
a couple
say
of 50 plus point games.
I was gonna take a second to mention it because he's on one of my teams, so it's kind of hard not to also. But
Yeah.
old man still got it, and he's
Yep.
very he's gonna get all the targets for the most part. Eckler's back, so he's gonna take some. But Mike Williams being down, got to have some young guys step up for them again, along with Keenan
Yep.
Allen. So he's
Hey,
gonna continue to get the volume.
what about CJ Stroud, man? The Texans offense all of a sudden doesn't look too bad. Damian Pierce has kind of underperformed, but CJ Stroud has overperformed, I think. And Tank Dell,
Stocks. Stock is
Nico
definitely right. Stocks are
Nico
rising
Collins too.
for sure.
Yeah, stocks are right. A young team over there in Houston. It's gonna be an interesting game to watch today. But
I
that's
like
all the
Damian
fantasy
Pierce
predictions
too.
I have.
I
I know.
like Damian Pierce.
I have Damian Pierce. I really like him too, but he hasn't been like the bell cow kind of back that I thought he would be going into the season.
That's what he was
He's
last year because he had to be last year. But now that they
yeah,
have CJ Stroud, I think they're kind of easing up on him, which it
it's
is what it is.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think
Um,
he's gotten like somewhere between 10 and 15 rushes a game at this point.
yeah, and one
End
more
zone a
quick
few times,
thought.
but yeah.
Yeah, one more quick thought. I had the Buccaneers winning that game against the Saints in our predictions, but don't be shocked if Alvin Kamara is the old Alvin Kamara as well. I think him and Derek Carr. I don't know. Is Derek Carr playing today? Do you know?
I think he is now. I think like originally they were talking about how he wasn't going to play, but
He was like week by week or something. But um, I think Derek Carr,
he is
especially
starting.
last year, he used Josh Jacobs a lot for dump offs and screens and stuff, and that's what Alvin Kamara does.
Yeah.
Um, Jamal Williams is on IR. Um, so it's just Kamara and all the young guns that they've been rotating through. So I think you'll see his volume shoot up real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, he is going to play. Yeah, he's going to
Sick.
start. And as of an hour ago, Derek Carr is starting for the Saints. So
Awesome. Any more thoughts before we hop off this podcast?
no, I think that's it for me today.
All right, cool. Ready for a big day of football? Um, Got to keep up with NBA action, NBA news. Hopefully the Sixers make some kind of move, or else we'll be very depressed Sixers fans. Just a reminder, we will be live streaming October 15th, the Ravens and Titans. It's the London game in the morning, bright and early. So just stay tuned and yeah, peace out.